Okay, so I'd like to give you a completely different example. So we talked about how we can use the Venn diagram, same Venn diagram 3 different ways with the I do, we do, you do, with this one book. So you can stick with just one book and that's fine. And that's actually good because of the time. A completely different example, some other practicum student might want to try, is if you had the same book, you can take it and start with this type of a graphic organizer. So using character traits or having a character map. So I might tell the children that, look at this character map. I read a story the other day and I was looking for details about my character. And at first all I could think of was that he had brown hair and brown eyes. And then I started thinking about more details and I went back to the story and I found that he was actually tall because the text said that. I found some evidence that said he was wearing shorts. And then it also talked about him being happy. And they didn't use the word generous, but he gave up something for another student. So that's a good word to describe him also. He was also smart. They talked about him winning the spelling bee. And he has a fast wit. He really came up quickly with a solution to a problem. So when I went back to the story, I found more ideas that talked about this character. And so it's more than just their physical appearance. It's also how they're feeling on the inside or their personality traits. And also can be their thoughts that help me figure out more about the character. So once I did that, I had more detail. So we're going to read this story, and we're going to compare different, I'm going to take that back. We're not going to compare. We're actually just going to come up with a character map with different characters from the story. So we need to really pay attention to the details. But the good news is we can go back to the story and reread and find those details on our own. So once I have done this, this is the I do. Then together we'll take one of the sheets out of the packet and we will do this one together. So this is a character map about Rose and we have it listed. And then we can go through the different prompts here about what does she think, hear, smell, does, what does she love, where does she go, what does she feel, or we can look at this where it says the physical traits or the personality traits. So whichever way is helpful for you, you can go ahead and use it. So we can say, okay, well, sometimes she's wearing rags with her physical traits. Sometimes she's wearing a fancy dress. Sometimes she's wearing glass slippers. And so I would write that around here together with the students. And they would give me these ideas. And it's okay to put 2 different ideas. So where she looked fancy during part of the story, but she looked like she was wearing rags during part of the story. That's okay. Also, we would talk about, for example, she was sad during part of the story, but she's also happy during part of the story. So we would also go back to the text and find even more. So I may take turns, and I may even say, why don't we look towards the beginning of the book, or maybe prompt them on different pages. In fact, that would be helpful to put in your lineup, which pages have the details so you can get right to them as your students are working. Once you fill this out together and you feel like you've gotten all the details that you discovered on your own and it's all filled out, this completes the we do. Then we do the you do, and that's where each student has their own sheet and they get to choose any other character from the same story and they can create the character map. It could be about Seb, who is the Prince Charming, it could be about the father, it could be about one of the stepsisters, whoever they'd like to choose, and then they go back to the details of the story. So don't forget when one of the stepsisters wanted to cut off her foot to fit into that slipper. So what word would you use to describe that? So this is what we would want our students to do, to fill this out with the details from that story. And that would conclude this option. You can use the same template 3 different times. You can use this same template 3 different times, or you can mix and match. It's really up to you. But just know that because of time, it's okay to use just the one story. Also, a couple of things. When I did the sample lesson plan, I had standards that tied in with writing. And I did that so that it would be easier for you to have that example without having exactly the standards that we need. Some of the exemplar text will have standards already listed, and if they happen to be the same, it's okay, because really this activity lends itself to where the majority of our students are going to have similar standards. So it's okay if you have the same standards as exemplar. So no problem there. Also, If you have any questions at all, just shoot me an email. I want you to feel good about this. I want you to be successful. Don't worry at all. You've got this. Again, thank you for caring about getting this right, and I apologize for any confusion, but I know you can do this, and I know your students are going to love it.